put your toes on the edge of that chalk line. I said put your toes on the edge of the chalk line, you slimy worm. 10, hut! I don't believe what I'm seeing. Where you been all your lives? At an orgy? Listening to Mick Jagger music and bad-mouthing your country, I'll bet. You better stop eyeballing me, boy. You're not worthy enough to look your superiors in the eye. Use your peripheral vision. Understand?
Yes, sir.
Now, every time I say understand, I want the whole group to say, yes, sir. Understand?
Yes, sir.
Understand?
Yes, sir.
Now, I know why most of you are here. We're not stupid. Before you get to sell what we teach you over at United Airlines, you got to give the Navy 6 years of your life, Sweet Pea. Lots of things can happen in 6 years. Another war can come up in 6 years. And if you're too peaceful a person to dump napalm on an enemy village where there might be women and children, I'm gonna find that out. Understand?
Yes, sir.
Understand?
Yes, sir.
Hi, son.
How you doing, Sarge?
What'd you call me?
Beg your pardon?
What did you call me, boy?
I called you Sarge.
Before that?
Well, I didn't call you anything before that.
You said, how are you? I am not a you, boy. A you is a female sheep, boy. Is that what you think I am, boy?
No.
No, sir.
No, sir.
Louder, Sweet Pea.
No, sir.
Welcome to The Great Conversation, and it's another exciting edition, and it's a delight to actually have in our presence African-American actor and award-winning actor, Louis Gossett Jr. He's won several accolades and several awards, and it's a delight to have him here in Ghana. He took 3 days trip here, and he's going to be here with us for 3 days. And so we decided to corner the man and have a great conversation with him. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Medasi.
Oh, you've learned quite fast.
No, they teach with whips up here, you know. No,
What else have you learned?
I feel like I'm home.
At home.
Yes,
Right.
I came from South Africa. I've been there quite a few times. I've already been in Kenya in the past, and every time I make this trip to the dark continent, I learn something. With total respect, it's like a reconnection, which is necessary. I highly recommend everyone to reconnect, especially men.
So it is your first time here in Ghana?
First time in Ghana, I was here for a day. And that day was a long time ago when I was a very young man. And I never got close enough to shake his hand, but Kwame.
Kwame Nkrumah?
Yeah, I met him at the United Nations. I was a young actor in Broadway, and we were all, Eartha Kitt was part of that party, and a couple of other people, James Baldwin, young James Baldwin, James Earl Jones, Roscoe Lee Brown, Raymond St. Jacques. We were an entourage to give honor to the original first presidents of all the countries. Julius Nyerere,
Okay.
Kaunda, and of course, it's just amazing, the first presidents of all these countries being together at the great United Nations.
Wow. Well, that's a long travel down here, once again.
Once again.
Now, Louis Gossett Jr. is not just an actor or a director or even a performer. He's also an activist, social activist, an educator, and a life coach. And so today we'll find out a lot of things about him and, of course, his reason for coming to Ghana, the motherland. So having studied your illustrious career spanning over 6 decades, I think that a lot of things that might have made some sense to you. And then some of them, too, might have taken you way back, that you might have thought things could have been different. But however, among all the accolades you've garnered to yourself, which ones were the most meaningful for you?
Obviously, the most meaningful is winning an Emmy for portraying Fiddler and Roots.
You won the Emmy twice, I think.
Well, a few times here and there. I mean, but to go into research what they teach you in school to do your character well, I was originally upset because all of the top actors, James Earl Jones and Cicely Tyson and Maya Angelou, and even O.J. Simpson, and they all got these cherry parts, and they saved Fiddler for me. All I knew about Fiddler was that he was an Uncle Tom. And it's a bad onus at that particular time when we were waking up to our racial injustice, quote unquote. And then in the research, I realized there really was no such thing.
Right.
As
There's
an
no
Uncle
such
Tom.
thing as Uncle Tom.
Well, he was the first American that Kunta Kinte met, first black American. And in order for that consciousness to go into Kunta Kinte, here I stand. So that was a man who knew how to survive, knew to learn lessons. He brought in his DNA, that African DNA of survival, of knowing what it takes to stay strong and alive and alert, to survive one generation at a time. And what he did to Kunta Kinte was invaluable. So here we sit re-meeting. So that's why my trips back here is a reunion from picking up where we left off, to complete the circle. And so I think the part, to answer your question, was roots. Yeah, I've done other things, but roots. And then the first motion picture that I did was during the course of those presidents, was in Kenya and in Tanzania. And I can't remember what day it was, my first motion picture, and I played a Kikuyu. And I was the houseboy at the time, where the British were running this game reserve. And now the country is in transition, going from the British rule to independence. So that was Julius Nyerere. So now, instead of the houseboy, I'm going to be the game warden. So I have to learn all this stuff, and my relationship with this young kid who was born in Africa, and this baby Galago, which is a beach, it's like half between a squirrel and a monkey, was her pet. So she turns out that she can't leave the pet. She can't take the pet back to England. She gets back off the ship, and she gets lost, and I'm accused of kidnapping her.
Ooh.
But that was the story.
That's a twist of things.
Yeah, twist of things. But the thing was, when they chased us, I got, at an age of 19 and 20 years old, the experience of watching the migration of all of those animals from the lowlands past Arusha and Mount Kilimanjaro, all the way up to the higher land, to Ngorongoro crater at Lake Manyara during the filming. So I learned a great deal about the local people, especially the Maasai.
You had a quick connection with the African
so my
continent
lessons began.
for a long time.
Yeah, my lessons actually began even earlier than that with my great-grandmother, who was a slave.
Tell us about your great-grandmother.
She only lied to me one time.
She only liked you one time?
She only gave me one lie. She said, "This is going to hurt me, but more than it's going to hurt you." So those lessons that she did would hurt her more than hurt me remained. And when I listened to her, everything was good, and when I did not, everything was bad. That probably started here in this continent with you and your great-grandma. They only had to tell you once certain things. And as a result of the longest civilization on the planet comes from this continent. So I realized that, and I've come back to learn more with respect, to reconnect.
So making your debut at the age of 17, would you have thought of doing something else at the time?
That was a very strange thing, because I never studied acting at the age of 17. So I believe, even in retrospect, that I'm not in charge. I was plucked by the nape of the neck by God, or whoever we might call him, and put in this position. After the Depression, I came up from a neighborhood which was not black and not all white, but everybody was poor.
After the Great Depression?
Right after the Depression. So we had to make our toys, broomstick handles for bats, and the women had, the girls had the chalk and rope, and they would draw on the walls, and we really were very happy. And when I'd come home from school, I could smell my way around the world at dinner. So that was an ideal situation. So I believe that God plans certain lives for us. So I was planted in a multi-ethnic environment at a young age. And of course, I was pulled out of that with reality of racism during the course of my life. It's full circle. I'm back. Yes, I'm back again, because we do need one another desperately.
Right. Now, having looked at the essential elements that roots played, do you think the roots, the elements of roots is still relevant today?
Oh, the element of roots now is relevant more than ever. There was a fear and an anxiety, and as is happening even in our headlines, in the most successful stories, from sports to show business to music, the resurrection or the birth of the African diaspora on all levels, in politics and films and stuff. So there's a kind of a fear, what's going to happen if they take over? There should be no fear. But the element of allaying whatever fear it is lies in us. We have to be so solid with our growth for the benefit of us all. It's the way my roots and your roots began as a tribe of people. At certain ages, certain things were done for the benefit of the whole. The women and the men would milk the goats or put the nuts.
Says that we're not here for ourselves, we're here for others.
For the benefit of the whole.
The greater good.
Now it's a very strange philosophy. We've come full circle with all kinds of atrocities because of our strength and all kinds of laws against us. And now it's full circle. No one can survive without that philosophy today. And if we don't adopt that philosophy taught by us, without resentment, nobody's going to win.
But when you talk about coming full circle, you realize that the movie industry worldwide, in every continent, in every country, is taking some sort of transformation.
It's a transformation and a restoration of everybody's value, especially ours, which was the first civilizations ever recorded. So that when Explorer would come here, we were already practicing astronomy, alchemy, animal husbandry, all of it.
And I understand that is a lot of movies these days, but not representative of how the people are, who they are, where they're from, and how they feel.
It's most exciting to know that there is potential now. That's another reason why I'm here as an elder, to tell for what it's worth. I'm not angry, I have no resentment, and even though I might have reason to teach the young that there is no time for nothing but restoration of your belief and a growth the way it was in the first place.
Right. Looking at the progression and future of filmmaking, does anything worry you? Do you have any worries of the future?
Well, there was just the natural worries of show business. God created an angel called Lucifer. And in every philosophy, Lucifer exists and very, very attractive. And it's not just racial, it's just very attractive. And if we go further to Lucifer, our success becomes shorter and shorter. It's possible for us to abandon Lucifer and go back to the right direction if we're alive. But most of us, there's some very tragic stories about how Lucifer has taken some people we love very much. And but once again, if we have those original roots, and we taught from our elders what our beliefs are, which are very simple. Whatever you think is for the benefit of the whole tribe. Now that philosophy is probably going to be needed for the salvation of mankind. And what we used to do, bottom line, is clean up the ocean so the fish are fresh to eat, take care of the animals, the earth, so that there's no chemicals in the food, make sure that everybody eats and everybody's safe and everybody's sheltered for the benefit of the whole, so that they can live and give it back. It's a circle, it's the infinite circle that was invented by my elders here in this continent.
Thinking that we could actually go back deep within ourselves and change our mindset first off.
Yes, sir.
And then we can change the world.
Yes. First, we can't give away what we don't have.
Right.
So there's nothing more attractive than a young African man or woman who is evolved, because they can't be, they have the knowledge that they got from their elders. They carry that message in all their affairs, and they become the Obamas. They become the Browns. They become the Irvin Magic Johnsons. They become Will Smith, and it's ad infinitum now.
Now, I understand that you've been off the scene for a while.
No,
There's something good coming in the pipeline, I understand.
Oh, there's always things happening. I'm an elder, so I kind of pick and choose, and I'm in the middle of a miniseries. I play a 105-year-old man. I've got other films coming out called The Foster Boy, and a film called The Reason. And then I played a Cuban former musician from the nightclub in Cuba. And so I'm in a hospice. And everybody comes to the hospice, does not leave the hospice. And I'm incommunicado until this young nurse figures out how to get to me. She brings the Cuban food and the music, and I come to life. So it's a nice challenge. And here I am making a pilgrimage, if you want to call it. It's not over. It's just another level to reconnect with some old friends like Erica and meet some new ones like the woman I met in South Africa. I'm very excited. My pace is different and measured. I'm not leaving the planet, and it's not my job to know when that's going to be, but I have longevity in my family.
There's a lot more work to be done.
Well, slowly, one step at a time, to transmit a message for what it's worth, without ego, a story about our reconnection and how necessary it is.
You have something to do with Ali's movie. I think there's a remake of it coming.
Well, that's hit and miss. We're negotiating.
Oh, right.
That was a good friend of mine, so I hope it works.
Right. We look forward to it.
I look forward to it too, because the family is very special to me.
Right. I understand there's some sort of move regarding transformation of the mindset of African Americans. Do you understand that there's a stimulation of a thought that crossed you, that you don't refer to yourself as African American, but rather American African?
I'm an American African.
What's necessitated that thought?
Those of us who live in that country, the promises are written in blood, that we hold these truths to be self-evident. And among these truths are life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness. We come contributing, once we know who we are, to the benefit of the whole, one more time. So we have to act as if we are already free, even though there is resistance. Because it is inevitable that the country or the world cannot survive without what we bring, but we have to know what that is. So the essential emotion and feeling on us, no matter how difficult, is forgiveness. And I was forgiven by a man on the cross who forgive. And so that's God's forgiveness, and it helps us grow a bit. And when we forgive, then we don't do anything self-destructive or destructive to someone else. It seems like the strongest important element. And so I can imagine you young people coming and doing things, even if it's tough, with a smile on your face. It's inevitable that they're going to have to follow you. So I'm an American African, very, very patriotic, because it's written beautifully. The Pledge of Allegiance. I don't have to get on my knee, although I respect that man. I stand straight up as a pure, solid American, as the Polish should do, the Jews should do, the Italians. We are American first. And that philosophy will then lead the world by example.
Right. We're still watching a great conversation. We do get back, and when we do get back, already know that Louis Gossett Jr. is not just an actor and a filmmaker, but he's also an activist. So we'll talk about E-Racism, his foundation. We'll talk about his book, An Actor and a Gentleman, and we'll talk about Ghana and his involvement with the Diaspora and African Forum. Stay around. We're still on a great conversation, and still with us here is the African-American actor and award winner. Of course, it is Louis Gossett Jr. still with us. And we're going to be talking about his involvement with the Diaspora and African Forum, and at the same time, have a conversation about E-Racism, which of course happens to be his foundation. I'm super excited about it. I've been online with it, and I realize it's making lots of transformation. How far have you come with the E-Racism?
Well, it started pretty big, and people kind of took it for granted. It'll be one of those foundations that will come and go. But it's a result of my childhood, what I explained to you, the way we were raised. At the age of 6 or 7, when I come back home from school, there was no money after the Depression. But we all lived together in poverty in Brooklyn at the time. After the Depression, I could smell my way around the world. I could smell some fried chicken. I smell some menudo. I smell some gefilte fish, some corned beef and cabbage, some lasagna. And whoever was home, that's where I ate. And that's where they ate. And so we kind of became a melting pot of people. And in retrospect, the people that I grew up with, at this age, and I'm 82, those men and women who are still alive are still my friends today. We would die for one another. So my lifetime experience is that once we do that with one another, nothing can break it, because it's God's love. So they would have been my bathtubs, and they were sat in my tables, and I sat in theirs. And so they're all over the place, quite successful. And a lot of them became my teachers. A lot of them got me my jobs in show business. I had no idea about acting, but somebody I grew up with. So they told me at the age of 17, when there were no young black actors in show business, they're trying to find a young man to play a part. Tell your mother to take you down there. What can you lose? That's how I got into show business, yeah.
Right, so E-Racism, as the name says for itself, erase racism. Do you find its relevance in Africa?
Very relevant globally. It's a mentality more than I thought when I got into it, because I was using personal experience about it. But in retrospect, no one is more important than anyone else. There are contributions. The African contribution is largely because it's the oldest civilization. And it intimidates those who think that they're less. There's no such thing. There's nothing but mankind. And the best of every culture in mankind to offer, from Spain to Africa, to Israel, to the Chinese, to the Asian, the best of all those cultures, those early cultures, put in a pot is our salvation now. And that's God's sense of humor. But it can't be there without the African flavor in the middle of it. But there's no better and there's no worse. But somebody may have say, well, if we let that happen, we will be taken over. There's no such thing. It's just the original civilization and the importance of it for the benefit of us all. Right.
What services does E-Racism Foundation, undertake?
Well, I have. I had hoped the woman had won the election in Georgia, because she was going to put in the curriculum of the schools a class that had to do with sensitivity to one another's cultures. So in there you have the Asians, you have the Latins, you have the blacks, and the experts of all those subjects would come in to teach their sensitivities, their holidays, their beliefs. And you can't go any further until you pass that course. The sensitivity. I understand, happy Cinco de Mayo. So I have to sense it. And Hadassah, so I'm sensitive to you now. You have Rosh Hashanah, Martin Luther King's holiday. All the things that come from Ghana and all the things from South Africa, all the things that we are sensitive to is mixed in this melting pot, which is the direction we're going. And that friction that we have in the streets disappears. Then you take those kids to high school. And you have that next mentality. And when they graduate and go to college, you begin to see the world change. So it started intellectually in the heart. I had no idea how much resistance I would get from people that I love a great deal, and people I don't. But they could not help talking about it. You got to erase it. And I had to take an advantage of. But what they forgot was they could take advantage of the foundation. But I believe that in my bone, that is necessary for our salvation. So it's taken a nap for a couple of months. It'll be back again by the end of January, even stronger. And all of a sudden, God, who I believe it very much so, has a sense of humor. What are you going to do now? Are you going to have resentment because you're justified? Or are you going to have to let me handle it and for everyone to survive? And it's the only way we're going to survive. We've gotten messages from volcanoes and storms and fires and trying to get our attention. And I know that he's trying to get our attention. I hope others do.
We heard what happened in California.
In California,
with your home.
It's my home in California. I had been there for 30 years, and I had that resistance because they were trying to get me out of there for nothing so they could make the money on the property. Head full of resentment and fame, and I put boxing gloves on. Meantime, the house was really killing me because it was foul air. So I'd come back, and in 20 minutes I get tired, and it aged me a great deal. But that fight against those people trying to get me out of there was stronger. So I held on until I got really tired. I said, okay. And then I put it up on market, and I got more than I expected. All my valuables, all my love and memories are in storage. I got on a plane and went to Atlanta and looked on the television, and the entire house had burnt down.
How did you feel?
Not only my house, but the people tried to get me out. Their house was burnt down. Well, you have to be careful not to have joy about their losing their homes. Forgiveness is essential.
Yeah. How did you feel when you watched that on TV?
A lot of emotion, because in the back house was my son and his son. So there have been 3 generations without a chance to survive. The smoke alone would have killed me. And there's only one way out. So we're very fortunate.
We thank God for your life. Not at all. Now, let's go back to E-Racism. Do you have an office here in Ghana or in Africa?
No, but I have a friend who's sympathetic. But to give you an idea what it means to me, because I see it happening in sports everywhere. The Greek freak and all of it. But this is what it looks like. Everybody's represented. And they're saying to the young people who think that there's a limit to what they can offer. It's a daily mantra. Impossible. And these children need to carry that message because back in the day when I first came here, I saw 15-year-old boys with spears, 15 and 20 of them taking care of a cattle to protect their cattle against the lion. And there was a mutual respect between those young men and those animals, unless they got hungry enough, and they'd kind of fight, and then they'd bring back the stuff. There was a society that, and it's not just here in Africa, but in Mexico and Central America and America with the American Indian. There was a commonness that everybody had something to do to protect everybody in the tribe, and everybody won. And now it's gotten to be that time again. I think God has planned that. But there's Lucifer with his little good hand. Have some of this, you know. But he's there for us to make a better choice. So I'm here to be an elder, for what it's worth. I have no desire to be younger or older. Hopefully, I'm in the palm of his hands on a daily basis. A lot of my contemporaries are not here, and they were younger. So I don't have to be faster. I don't have to be slower. I just want to be here now on a daily basis and make myself available for the message. And the message comes to me, to you.
Let's talk about multiculturalism and cultural sensitivity in some of the messages you preach. You find that they are pertaining to certain sections of the public, where of course social activism, about racism and all of that. How does that come about when you have to blend in cultural sensitivity in it?
So the racial and cultural competition of who's first, second, or third, and it's been that way for generations. When something is that way for generations, it's hard to get rid of. And there's an attrition that happens because we have some heroes who have lost in that struggle. And then I don't have to name them all through the Holocaust, all through civil rights, and all through slavery, and all through. They are sacrificial lambs, but they should not be sacrificed for nothing. The end result is a major portion of forgiveness. Men and women, it's time for the women and mankind to take over, because we need, our society needs sensitivity, needs rebirth, needs tenderness, needs wisdom, and we all came from them. So that transition has to be made without resentment and without fear. And we need to calm the angry woman down, because this is getting in her way of our healing. So we are two halves of our heart. So we have to, as men, take a deep breath and allow that to happen, because that's where our power is. Then we have to have that same forgiveness then to someone not of our race, who did some things we are justified to be angry about. We have no time. We have time to save mankind for the benefit of the whole. That is our challenge, difficult as it may sound, but easier and much more direct than a Band-Aid.
You talk so much about restoration. Yes, you talk about restoration. You talk about the fact that you have a battle within that you have to win over yourself.
Yes, it's a restoration to sanity.
For the sanity of the humanity.
Yeah, you know, we were told that our sanity was
must have been
insane.
hard, right?
Yeah, of course it is.
How did you get over it? I mean, if you can provide some steps or something.
Well, I have steps. I have certain philosophies that are got from all kinds of things. But there's a, let's see, how can you put it? When God is in charge, or whoever you might call him, Allah, it doesn't matter. There's a bunch of rules that you're given. You can't just use one and leave the other 9 away. There's a daily application. And if you do that daily application, then those things that get in the way of our growth become apparent. And there's a process called discover, uncover, and discard.
Discover, uncover, and discard.
And discard.
That makes sense.
Yeah, now your resentments and your angers, your jealousies, your superiorities, how many women, how many all that stuff. How many
awards?
Yeah. You get out of the driver's seat and you say, thy will, not let mine be done. And you stick around.
It's like pretty much easy step, but from the, speaking point of view, but of course.
Especially these days, very attractive to go the other way.
Detachment from material things. It's one of the hardest things.
It's very difficult. But I know the lessons some contemporaries and some young ones now are no longer here because they hung with Lucifer.
Right, so let's talk about your relationship with the Diaspora African Forum.
Mm-hmm. Well, my relationship with the Diaspora African Forum came with a young lady that I met quite a while ago, when I had black hair and a beard and new tuxedos and thin and stuff. And she was the cutest thing around, So I went to her and we were attracted. We had to have a photograph. That's her there. And all of a sudden, fade out, fade in, she's in charge of the African diaspora, and here I am still alive. We met a reunion for a bigger picture, to restore our roots in a proper way. And when we do that, I have no doubt, as I already have seen, that the African combination of the African diaspora, not just from here, but the effects of it all the way around the world, when it's reconnected, the world is saved.
Right. Earlier this year in September, the president of Ghana, President Akufo-Addo, made a declaration to mark the 400 years of transatlantic slave trade, which of course it bears a theme that says the year of the return.
Yes, yes.
How do you feel about this?
It's only when you sit back and that happens, because that must happen, the major emotion, which is the most difficult in anyone of the dark skin, is forgiveness. Understand rather than to be understood. It's a major God shot because he sent his only child to die for us to understand the forgiveness. But we need to get the forgiveness in place, otherwise we never grow beyond it to be the salvation of us all. It's charged with difficulty on a daily basis. You mean to tell me that I got these 6 Rolls Royces and these 7 women and this castle and all this money is not my keys to the kingdom? The answer is no.
So with other people in the diaspora, they often come down and all of that. Are they part of the diaspora forum, you think? Or
Say it again.
I'm asking if the people who come down from diaspora, just as you came down, they have involvement with their Diaspora African Forum. What sort of roles do you play in here?
Being an elder and to learn. School is never out for any of us. We need to go and live with ourselves with any information we have. I don't mean you have to get rid of your Rolls Royces and your money, but there's a bigger picture for the benefit of us all. And there's no time for anger. And if these young people think that there's inequities and things that they have to fight the rights for, if they get those rights, I think it's less than they deserve. I think they have the information, once they dig deeper to the proper roots, is something they have to have in their system to add to the whole. So there's different energy. And I see the energy on every aspect. I see it in his program here, and I see it in sports with the man from Greece, another one from the Congo, another one, and they're the best in the business. Then look in the movies, and I see Idris Elba. Nobody who knows who is Idris. And some of the people with the African names and the movies and music, and it's obvious. It's obvious. So if people want to dig in and cash in on it, but it's an unending stream of brilliance. So it's only the beginning for you young folks. But watch out for Lucifer.
Yeah, he's always there in the corner. And it's still an exciting conversation we're having here. Really insightful. And when we do get back after this break, we'll talk about life goals, advice, and of course, we'll talk about the book, An Actor and a Gentleman. Stay with us. Welcome back. Still the great conversation. And of course, we're delighted to still be here with brother, uncle, and
Baba.
elder.
Yeah, that's what's called.
Louis Gossett Jr. Yeah, so over the years, you've gathered several nuggets of wisdom. They said the elderly is repository of wisdom. Life goals, life coaching, you've done several people some life coaching. You have actually, coached a lot of people around acting, but I know that you've written a book. And in this book, there are several paragraphs and pages and chapters that speak about your life in general. Which particular chapter in there speaks about your life?
Oh boy, there's so many different chapters. As honest as I possibly could be, I never suffered really any racism as a child. I was a melting pot, and so when I thought the rest of the world was like that, and my heroes are my uncles, they went away to the war and came back, and they died a little bit too soon for me. But what they did was they drank too much and they partied too hard. But out of that culture came great jazz and great music, and it's attracted me a great deal. But Lucifer is very much there in our stuff, always in there. So I wanted to be like them, but they kept on taking me away from them, sending me to schools. I excelled in school and sports, became quite an athlete, all during the war, basketball and baseball. And my hero was Jackie Robinson, of course. But in the meantime, those young people that I grew up with became the bosses of Broadway and movies. So I was the first one Right after Sidney Poitier, who was sent to Hollywood, it was me. Then it was Sicily and all that. So I never had any hardships. I started at 17. I was in a lead on a Broadway show opposite James Dean and all those particular people. I won all those awards, and we played ball, and I excelled. And I always had the idea that that was the way life should be. But then I learned that life was not like that once I got on the plane. And all that industry went to California. They put me on the first class, people I grew up with. They were in charge of the studios. And then I landed in Los Angeles. And the limousine came out just like you escorted me from the hotel to this place with a siren. They took care of me. I said, oh, there's my pals, guys I grew up with. They were running things. Huh? Big smile on my face. I went to the Beverly Hills Hotel, the place that they hold for African diplomats. And they said, you have a rented car. I went to the rented car in a place called Hertz Rent-A-Car. And there was a Ford Fairlane Galaxy 500, eggshell white with red interior. And at the time, the #1 musician was Sam Cooke.
Sam Cooke.
Sam Cooke.
Change is going to come.
Right. I turned it on pretty loud, and it only takes 20 minutes from the Hertz Rent-A-Car back to the Beverly Hills Hotel. It took me almost 5 hours. I met every policeman that you could imagine. Yeah, the word got out. Who?
What gives? What made that?
1966. So I said, for the first time in my life, and I've been down south many times, but I was sent to farms. For the first time in my life, I experienced racism. I did not know what to do. My heart broke in many pieces. I was put on the ground. I was put on the sides of sidewalks, and the cars would go back and forth and back and forth. And it was hot and uncomfortable, and all I wanted to do was leave the car there and go straight to the airport and come back home to Coney Island. So by the time that 4.5-hour thing, that experience was over, I went back to the Beverly Hills Hotel, and the president of the Beverly Hills Hotel said, that's just them. They come from Alabama and Mississippi. That's what you're expecting. Take a deep breath. Here's the movie stars' homes all around here. Just go down there and take pictures of the movie stars' homes.
And you just let that emotion go?
No. I just went to, well, I had my friends, you know.
Right.
I took this movie stars' homes. Within 30 minutes, the police handcuffed me to a tree.
To a tree?
And for 3 hours.
What was your crime? Because?
Walking after 9 o'clock. Now I'm finished. So now I've had to go from that day and understand how to make peace with that until today. And there was every kind of challenge you can think of. God put me through. He dipped into me every experience. And his intention was for me to come out a winner. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. I'd be Marvin Gaye or Richard Pryor. I'd be Jackie Robinson, because I had the same experiences, the same thing happened to me. The beat-ups, the ostracizations, the bad foods in restaurants, all kinds of stuff, the attempt up to my lives, the beat, all that.
And all this was necessitated because of color?
Yes, sir. Necessitated because of color and too big for my britches. I shouldn't have that kind of car. Who do you think you are? That comes from Mississippi and Texas and Oklahoma. For some reason, in retrospect, I needed to experience every possible thing.
In order to make you whole.
In order for me to sit here and tell you young folks, that was then, this is now. You have no time. Even though you feel justified, after you know the history, to get a revenge, your challenge is to put it aside in masterful God's forgiveness and get on with the salvation of mankind.
So this philosophy that you gathered, I understand that it's been several millions of years. You gathered this experience from one of your compatriots at the time?
Yes, some of them, they want, we can make us a lot of money. That's Lucifer. Whether we make money or not is not the best of what we do naturally. Like my great-grandmama who lived for 117 years old. She didn't raise me to make money. That was her job. So my job is to transmit a message to you young folks to get rid of all the stuff that gets in the way of your growth and your leadership for the benefit of all of mankind. And you have it in your bone and in your DNA. I have a poem that goes, black child, thinking it's a whitewashed land, looking for his freedom and does not know it's in his hand. But he's getting it together. Can he find a family with you? Can he find a family with you? Can we find a family with you? Don't you know he needs it? A white child, he's moving in his father's feet, looking at his image, and it might be a little bit incomplete, but he's getting it together. Can he find a family with you? Can he find a family with you? Can he find a family with you? Don't you know he needs it? Sharpen your, oh boy, it went away.
It does happen.
It happens.
But I did gather that, of course, it means, regardless of where you find yourself, you should find your family with humanity, regardless of color.
Absolutely, yeah. Sharpen your wits to the true facts of life and shorten your span of apathy. Tell me you care if the world turns to fire. Show me some kind of empathy. Santa's almost gone from the thoughts of our children, never to ride in the sky, but solace will always be found in the presence of a child whose mind is still running free and wild. Peace that never existed whenever fear was around, because it puts you through all kinds of changes and bringing you down, way, way, way down. People moving in a shrinking world. Got to find communion because we've got our minds all swirled. But we're getting it together. Can we find a family with you?
Can I find a family with you?
You got it. Don't you know we need it?
All right, so let's look at another chapter in this book where, of course, you dedicated to your grandmother, your great-grandmother. What was the content of this? I know it's very nurturing.
Those of us who still alive, we remember from Detroit and Philadelphia and Chicago, our parents were how much like the film The Help. They were the chauffeurs, butlers, porters, maids. Did this excellent job. Sometimes they had 2 and 3 jobs a piece a day. And the children had to behave themselves. And it was their vacation to send us all on a train to Silver Street, on the way to the south, and work in the farms for the summer. So I was sent to Georgia. And I worked, my specialty was yellow meat watermelon. And so I learned how to slop the hogs and eat the foods that we learned how to eat and purify from slavery and from Africa. And the foods were what they call today organic. That was organic. There was no chemicals in any of that food. So as a result of going in May and coming back home to New York in August, we were the best in the team because we had the best nutrition, the corn, the neck bones, the barbecue ribs, the fresh fruits.
Now you're making me feel.
Oh boy, we so now it's we came back really strong, and so then they had to do something else about us. They had to bar us from certain things. We broke that down. So I didn't want to be able to like my uncles now. I'm here to take care of the rest of the family. So at the age of, I guess 19 or 20, I was taking care of 3 or 4 homes, and that was nice. And then Lucifer would come in and say,
he's right there in the corner.
and he's never that. And Lucifer is strong within me. And if Lucifer is stronger than us in our success, my lesson to you young folks is you have to find something that's stronger than you and Lucifer put together. Whatever that belief is, God maybe. And then if you had to, you have to do it on a daily basis, 24/7. And Lucifer will go to sleep, but he's never going to go away.
I understand that you're getting over anger, justified anger.
The worst resentment.
The worst resentment.
And we
You
have
feel
many
justified.
stories. The worst resentment that we can have is the one we feel justified to keep.
Says Nelson Mandela is very essential in that
And after 27 years, he came out. and said,
principle. Tell us about it.
what else you got?
No.
So he came out, and his 2 friends were the jailers who were torturing him. And he came out, and he lived with them. The world had stopped. We're not breathing because they knew that if he came out of there after that thing, all he'd have to do was say, kill everybody. So he didn't. Whatever he did in that prison, that people liked or not liked, he was symbolic of the salvation of South Africa by not going that direction. So I wouldn't come to South Africa until he came out. And when I came out, I came and I endeared myself with some of the children. Oliver Tambo and Adelaide Tambo, the godfather and godmother of the ANC, and their children. Dolly Tambo, who was like Arsenio Hall, and Chris Hani, God rest his soul, and his family. As a matter of fact, I dated a woman who was the niece. And so we partied, and we were all at the same dinners all the time. I was always invited as part of I was the American son. So Chris Hani, who was slated to be the next president right after Mandela, they were slating him, and he was getting stronger and very more positive. One morning he gets out and he gets to work, and he's shot 6 times in the chest. So my grandmother and my mother taught me, you go get the flowers. You present them to the widow. I did not think about anything else. So I drove up to the place, Before I realized I couldn't go forward, I couldn't go backward. There were the white police on this side with the guns I've never seen the size of, so big. And on the other side, these kids with these machetes. And they were about to have it. I pull up and I get out of the car with the flowers, and like I did a double take, like an Alfred Hitchcock movie. I thought it was going to be over. I had made a decision. I'm not going to stay in this car with these flowers. Me and my assistant walked to the house and knocked on the door. And my friend Dolly Tamo grabbed me and said, "Get in here." And I didn't understand what they were so angry about. I knew there was going to be fights. I just wanted to pay my respects. So she was wrapped in bed sheets. So I put her down. She looked at me like I was crazy. And she started to cry. And she said, "Thank you." I went outside and spent some time with Oliver Tambo, who would not let my hand go. And Adelaide, I didn't understand. Now I know in retrospect that I could have died too. So she went outside and she spoke for 2 or 3 hours in 3 languages. Now it's darkness. She came back and says, "I think you can go now." So I went out and you could hear nothing. Same scene, white guys and ropes and guns and black children sitting there. They don't want to be there, they want to fight. And me walking and then getting out of the way, both sides, to the car, backed out, got into the freeway, back to the Sentinel Sun, followed by helicopters, and then finally they walked away. Now, in retrospect, I came back again to South Africa, and there was some 3 white men came. I said I should not have come back here. Big, tall, 6'7" guy. It's like Dolph Lundgren in Rocky. And got me up first. My luggage was already in the car. I said, "Well, I'm going to die." So that white man, he's dead now. He said, "I'm going to tell you a story." I said, "What?" He said, "Well, the day you came to the Honey household, I was a young soldier, and they told me to put you in my crosshairs. And I watched you come out of the car." And my commander said, "Okay, now," and I said, "Oh, wait a minute. That man is an actor. He's not one of those people. Let him go." That became one of my best friends. God rest his soul. God's lesson, regardless of our conflicts, whether it be Arab or Jew, black or white, Mexican or Italian or whatever it is, nothing stronger than our brotherhood. And now it's necessary. So for what it's worth, listen or not, this old man is telling you young folks, the sooner you get to that compassion and comparison as one mankind, you're not going to make it.
Thank you so much. It's still a great conversation. We had a really insightful discussion here about so many things about life. And of course, if you want to buy the book, remember you can log on to the website, louisgossettjr.com, or go over to the eracismfoundation.com. The book is over there. Just click on order, and there you have it. Thank you so much for coming in.
All right, Medase.
Oh, you're welcome.